I was 3 months old when my family moved overseas to Germany to work on different Air Force bases while my parents were on staff full-time with the Navigators. Missions was a way of life growing up in our family. Both of my parents were missionaries, and we traveled and lived in 3 or 4 different cities in 5 years. We moved back to Columbia, South Carolina for my dad to go to Columbia Bible College, now Columbia International University. It was at that time that we got involved with elementary school age activities at church. My sister and I were both in GAs, and we both did the old school sword drills. And as a middle schooler, I got involved with some short-term missions projects that happened over spring break. As I got to high school, the missions trips became further away and for longer periods of time. And I was really fortunate to be able to serve 3 summers in a row in different housing projects. And then my last year in high school, my missions trip was to Mexico, where we were helping build the second story on a church. Each trip had its own special things that I could take away from them. Interestingly enough, I always expected the overseas missions trips to be the ones where I would come home so grateful for what we have here in this country. And as it turned out, I didn't have to go very far to realize that there were people who needed love, there were people who needed to learn about the Lord, there are people right down the street who need to have their basic needs met. No one has to go to a third world country to find people in need. 4 years ago, something changed within our family when my husband became ill that abruptly stopped the ability of any of us to go on missions trips. Brian and I had talked about traveling on a missions trip, even somewhere within the state where we could participate for something over a long weekend together, and as the kids got older, to introduce them to the idea of serving. Now that he's at home all the time and requires 24-hour care, I'm suddenly tethered to my house and able to leave for short periods of time during the day, but nothing like to travel overseas on a missions trip, not even to go away for a week like on spring break as we've done before. I really believe, really believe that the Great Commission affects all Christians and puts you into 2 categories. You're either going, as I've done before when I was younger, or you're sending those who can still go. I grew up in a Southern Baptist church, and missions was always in the forefront of activities that revolved around Lottie Moon offerings, and that was done once a year, but there were always updates from different families that our church sponsored who were missionaries. Now that there's no longer an option for us to go, that doesn't diminish at all the weight of what we've been given in the Great Commission, which is a command to make His name known to all nations. Everybody deserves to have hope. Everyone deserves to hear the truth of who Jesus is and what He's done for them and how He can change their lives. Having my own children really changed my perspective in how desperately I was willing to give sacrificially to make sure that little children all over this world could hear the same truth that my children are fed at home and at church. Missions is an important of every Christian's life. If it's not, it needs to be. It's worthy of the time that we spend praying. It's worth committing to send. It's worth sacrificing so that others can go. Having my own children has really helped me understand what a blessing it is to have something so precious. But as I look at them, I cannot imagine sacrificing them for anyone. What a realistic portrayal of God's sacrificial love for us in taking His one and only perfect Son and giving Him for wretched sinners who cared not about Him. Understanding that has changed my life. It's given me hope. God's grace is really sufficient for all of our needs, no matter how great they are these days. Everybody deserves that hope, and it is worth the sacrifice to send as many people as I can send on as many trips as they'll go on until everybody knows the truth. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I am sent.